Hamas custody or the custody of their partner groups in the Gaza Strip. This has outraged so many Israelis and has really vindicated the notion for so many people who've been saying this for months that there is no military solution to freeing these hostages. They have said this time and time again, even though Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing ministers have been saying they need to punish Hamas and end their rule on the Gaza Strip, and that is the only way to free the hostages. So far, only a handful of hostages have been released that way by military force. The majority have been through some kind of deal. And this killing of these hostages just in the last day or two has really vindicated this argument that there needs to be a deal. And that's why you're seeing so many people out in the street. Now, this is not going to end tonight. The organizers want to see a full-on nationwide strike tomorrow, including various municipal governments who have already signed on to a strike. And even Ben Gurion International Airport, the gateway to Israel, is going to be closed starting at 8 a.m. local time tomorrow. This is a demonstration that the organizers are hoping won't end anytime soon.
Remarkable scenes there. Thank you, Matt Bradley, for that report. Switching gears now to the presidential election, which is just 65 days away. Can you believe it? Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz was back in his home state courting voters at the Minnesota State Fair today. Now, on Labor Day, which is tomorrow, the focus will shift to critical Rust Belt swing states. Vice President Harris will kick off the holiday in Detroit before heading to Pittsburgh, where she will join up with President Joe Biden. The Steel City stop will mark the first time that both Harris and Biden have joined forces for a campaign appearance since Harris took over the Democratic ticket's top spot. Now, also tonight, a new national ABC News Ipsos poll shows Harris with a slight lead over former President Donald Trump. That lead is within the margin of error among registered voters, and it ticks up a little bit larger when you are surveying likely voters. The poll was taken after the Democratic National Convention. You know, now, despite those numbers, the chair of the Harris-Walz campaign said in a memo today that Harris is still running as an underdog in the race. In recent days, while Trump has waffled on everything from abortion rights to IVF treatment for all, Vice President has remained pretty focused on her policy agenda, offering these comments during her first television interview as a presidential candidate.
I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. I believe it is important to build consensus, and it is important to find a common place of understanding of where we can actually solve problems.
All right, joining me now to discuss all of this is Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. Madam Attorney General, thank you so much for joining us on Sunday. Really appreciate it. Before we get into the election business, I actually do want your reaction on what is happening overnight in the Middle East, or what happened overnight in the Middle East. Detroit, in your state, it has a large population that has been fairly vocal about the war in Gaza. Is this something that you believe Vice President Harris will address in her campaign stop there tomorrow? And what would you like her to say about the situation on the ground in Israel tonight?
Well, you know, I think it's about reaffirming her commitment to doing everything she possibly can to ensure that the remaining hostages are brought home safely, but also to ending the war. You know, this war has been devastating on both sides. And if I can say anything about at least my constituents here in the state of Michigan, a large Jewish population as well as Arab American population, I think we just all want peace. You know, we all want safety for the Palestinian people and the Israeli people as well. And my heart absolutely goes out to those who have lost loved ones in such a brutal fashion last night. I think it really goes to show how difficult it is to negotiate, you know, with bad faith actors and, you know, a terrorist organization.
Yeah, it's a devastating scene and news to wake up to this morning. Switching gears to the election, recent polling in your state does show that Harris has a small lead. It's within the margin of error. Everyone knows it's going to be super tight in Michigan. It seems to always be the way. What does she need to do to maintain the momentum that she's built up through the convention and that she wants to bottle for the next 65 days?
I think that, you know, Kamala Harris needs to continue doing exactly what she's doing right now, which is doing the work, showing up, talking about all her policies that are going to improve the lives of everyday Americans, and really building that contrast that we know exists between her and Donald Trump. I mean, look at Donald Trump's policies, right? He wants to cut Social Security. He wants to abolish the Affordable Care Act. He wants to end collective bargaining for workers and even end the right to organize. He joked with Elon Musk about firing striking workers, even in the private sector, right? So I think it's the contrast about somebody who's very, very good for the middle class and everyday Americans versus Donald Trump, who only wants to help billionaires and, frankly, enrich himself and his family as well. But I will say this, when you talk about it being all tied up, right? My race, the day before in 2022, all the polls had me tied in my race. Ultimately, I won by 9 points. Governor Whitmer won by 10.5 points. Secretary of State Benson won by 14 points. Why? Because we had record voter turnout and engagement. And we had the highest rate of young voters come out to the polls than we've ever had in the history of the state and across America as well in 2022. So that's what we need: voter engagement, excitement, enthusiasm. We have all of that now. We just need to see it through to the end.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you seen a note on the issue of engagement, enthusiasm, youth voters specifically? Have you seen a tangible shift since Vice President Harris replaced President Biden atop the ticket?
Well, with all due respect to President Biden, it's been like night and day. There were a lot of people who just really didn't feel like they wanted to get involved at that level. And I will say I have 2 kids who are in college, and I've seen how they and how their friends have reacted to Kamala Harris becoming our nominee. They can't wait to get her elected to President of the United States. They're very, very excited because they know that she shares their values about making America better for them in the future. It's not about going back. It's about moving forward. And whether it's gun safety issues, climate change, reproductive rights, even eliminating student debt. These are things that are incredibly important to young voters. And I think that they know that, and that's why they're going to show up for Kamala Harris on Election Day. And in Michigan, before that, because we have no reason absentee voting, as well as 9 days of early voting.
Let's talk about the issue of voting. Since it is in your purview, you are the Attorney General of the state. You've dealt with some of the complexities around it, I would say, legal complexities brought up by Donald Trump. The former president continues to push the big lie in an effort to sow doubt about our elections and the election process. Like I said, you experienced this as Michigan AG back in 2020. What's different now in the lead up to this election that we didn't have in the lead up to 2020 that could prevent a repeat of what happened? And I guess more fundamentally, do you believe that we will have a peaceful transfer of power if Donald Trump loses in November?
Well, I will say this. I think we're going to be more prepared for literally any set of circumstances now in a way in which perhaps we were caught a little off guard in 2020, right? So we have changed certain laws to strengthen protections. We know that our elections are safe and they're secure and they're accurate. How do we make sure that all the processes work? Well, it's like things like understanding that, for instance, the false slate of electors used to be literally anybody could take their slate and go through the Postal Service and send it to the Senate for the vice president potentially to select. Well, that's not the case anymore. It has to be transmitted officially through the office of the governor. That's a change, right? We have made some changes as it pertains to how the Board of Canvassers works, as to how any election challenges have to go right to the Michigan Supreme Court as opposed to random courts around the state when it comes to certification. So we've done a lot of things here in Michigan to make sure that some of those things that happened before can't happen now, or if they do, we're ready, we're prepared, and we have a plan.
Well, just very quickly, due to the last part of that question, though, are you worried that there will be put it this way, do you think there would be a peaceful transfer of power if Donald Trump were to lose the election?
I feel very confident that President Biden will peacefully transfer power to Vice President Harris.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, thank you so much for joining us on a holiday Sunday. Really appreciate it. And coming up, lashing out, Donald Trump doubling down on his attacks against Vice President Harris just days before the debate. I'll discuss what he said with our sound-off panel after the break. Plus, Rioters Gala. What? Trump's golf club is hosting a fundraiser for January 6th defendants this week. I'll speak with former U.S. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn to get his take later in the show. You're watching The Sunday Show on MSNBC.
App stores and smartphones have changed everything in our world. And just like an app store, Ethereum creates a place for others to build and launch new applications, which are owned by everyone on the blockchain. What if you could own a part of that ecosystem? CE. Registered access to Ethereum, available through your existing investment account.
When a victim becomes a survivor, the real work begins.
We have an obligation to seek the truth.
I'm not asking you to trust the system. I'm asking you to trust me.
NBC's Law & Order, new October 3rd. Set your DVR.
When I first noticed my hair loss, I panicked. That's when I found Hers.
Through Hers, you can find a range of prescription hair loss treatments.
It is very clear that it's worked for me.
Regrow hair in as few as 3 to 6 months. Get started today at forhers.com.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I'm genetically predisposed.
I just gave birth. I was under a lot of stress.
I started taking Nutrafol.
We test our formulations with the highest rigor of clinical trials, and we're the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement.
I noticed it becoming
stronger and thicker.
Nutrafol has taken me back to the hair I was meant to have.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
When your home needs work, where do you go?
Angie.
Angie?
That's where Angie came in.
With Angie, find top-rated certified pros in your area, plus compare quotes and pricing to help you get all your jobs done well. Find top-rated certified pros in your area at Angie.com.
Heather likes things smooth. So when she had a rough time getting a weight loss appointment, she came to us. Through Ro, she connected with a provider online and got a GLP-1 prescription. Now she's on her way to losing 20% of her weight in a year with diet and exercise.
Now that's smooth.
We got you, Heather. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Frustrated by skin tags? Dr. Scholl's has the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Now there's an easier-to-use at-home skin tag remover, clinically proven to remove skin tags safely in as little as 1 treatment.
Never clean your gutters again with LeafGuard. LeafGuard's seamless design keeps leaves, pests, and sediment out while directing water away from your home, giving you peace of mind that your home and family are protected from water damage with the industry's premier maintenance-free gutter system. Call 844-6LeafGuard right now for a free estimate and save 20% plus $500 off your purchase and